Felix Wachiofosu, the Minister of State in charge of Government Communications and presidential spokesperson, sends his apologies. An emergency has taken him off to other duties, but he has sent us his able deputy spokesperson to help us with this conversation. We're very happy to have Shamima Muslim join us. Shamima, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
I feel like
As
I should be saying.
you say he has sent his deputy, so you give me dirty questions and reserve the minister questions to him.
Please. When they gave you the post, you said thank you, Mebwa. So let's. So you would deputize.
Must play by the
assignment. Well, we appreciate you making the time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we all listened to the president yesterday. We've also heard from Felix Kwachiofosu on PM Express last night,
yes.
And it would appear that many people are quite happy with the president's performance. There are some of the items on the list, however, that I think everyone agrees have not yet been done. Maybe we can start with an update on those and when we can expect some movement on them. We have a list of them here. I think we'll share the list and then we'll get into it with you.
The first from our research would be review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agri. Second one will be review Customs Act to allow salvaged vehicle imports as well, and restructure loss-making SOEs for profitability. We acknowledge that he mentioned about the SOEs as well yesterday, but the fourth one will be streamline government scholarship administration, and finally purge security agencies of militia vigilante elements. Those are the five from our research.
All right. So, Shamima, shall we start with the first one?
Yes. So, the levies on vehicles and equipment, and just so to also say that the way we have to view the promises within the 120-day contract is not to say that these promises are an end. So, even for those that have been done, the results and impacts are medium to long term, really, because the whole mandate is a 4-year mandate. The 120 social contract was to communicate very clearly, very early, the commitment to an urgency and to show the beginning of a reset agenda through the foundational actions that we were committing under His Excellency's leadership to undertake. So from forming a lean government to all the others that we have gone through that have actually come on board, they are just to communicate the commitment of a new government that is relying heavily on experience and the urgency that it can't be business as usual if we are to reset the economy and really reset the country. So on to the first concern about the levy. We have tagged this particular action as in progress because government has indeed initiated the review of taxes and levies on the vehicles and the equipment imported for industrial and agricultural purposes. And the assessment is currently in progress because it's a very comprehensive assessment that needs to be done with key stakeholders all agreeing to the modalities and the framework for accessing. So we are hoping that the report and assessment would inform our policy decisions in our upcoming fiscal framework. And the findings would then be incorporated into the 2025 mid-year budget review. So if nothing is being done, by this time we will not have anything to report, and that will be problematic. But the work is ongoing, and some of these works are deep work. They don't lend themselves to easy fixes. There are meetings upon meetings, engagements upon engagements, discussions at cabinet level to agree on the key modalities and the best, sets of options to deploy so that the intent behind the policy is achieved. So that is our answer to this particular matter. It is in course and in progress. So we will not describe it as having not been done.
Okay, you know that this exercise is really about accountability. That's why the
Yes,
president,
please.
made these promises and asked us to hold him to account. So perhaps you can give us some detail just to demonstrate when you say that it is in progress, to demonstrate tangibly that it's in progress. So who has been put in charge of it? When did they last meet? What are some of the action points that they are carrying out? Can you share some detail with us
I
to
wouldn't have
confirm
those
this?
details because the implementing agency is also the Transport Ministry and the Trade Ministry, and a few sectorial ministers are on this task. So I wouldn't have information about when they met, how they met, but if you've asked, we're going to also get that information. And since the conversations are ongoing, we'll come back to you with evidence of work in progress.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is
Next one will be review Customs Act to allow salvaged vehicle imports.
Which number was that so that I look?
Well, this is our research, not particularly
on the list. It would have been number what? Let me check. I have to look it up for you, Shamima,
Because
because
I want to follow.
right.
Because you've done your assessment and we also have our assessment, so I need to be clear which one.
Yeah, understood. Well, I mean, while I'm looking up the specific number for you, the detail of it is that you were going to set things up so that salvage vehicles can be brought in, particularly for those who sell spare parts to benefit.
Okay, so if it's not listed as done, it will be work in progress, and the same explanation with all the others that are in progress is what will apply to that one as well.
Okay, so
Because all from our assessment, we have 25. We have assessed that 20 have been fully implemented and 5 are in progress. And even as at last night, His Excellency gave us further information about some of the actions being taken on those that are in progress. So we would even be updating our list today.
okay. Well, then I suppose the response to all of these 5 will be in progress, but you
Yes.
will have to provide the detail later.
As you have requested.
Okay. Now let's go to some of the ones that well, the president says you've taken action on, but we're comparing the president's description of action to the reality on the ground. Galamsey is an example of this. Okay, so the actual promise for Galamsey, I think, was number 19, if I'm remembering correctly. Number 19, which said, and I quote, ban illegal.
Before that, I know you mentioned about the initiative to purge the security agencies of militia and vigilante elements.
Yes.
So if I can, we have actually listed that as done, even though under your assessment you would think it's not. So just to go through the actions that have been taken in this regard is to communicate, as the president also did yesterday, is that there's a worrying trend where so-called disbanded militia and vigilante groups have found their way into state security agencies, and so sometimes the outlook of those elements are not in tandem with what the approach or the outlook of a professional security officer should be. So we've had reports even from you where you say people in the past, you will never know who's a national security officer who is working and operating within our common, spaces. But you go to places and people will be brandishing their national security, status. So that was obviously an ideological departure from what a true professional, security apparatus should look like. So among some of the several initiatives that have been taken is to establish a board of inquiry to investigate recent recruitment processes And the objective really is to identify the discrepancies and implement some corrective measures generally.
Right.
The other initiatives include having a thorough background check for both new and serving personnel, and a mandatory ideological reorientation session to reinforce military neutrality, national unity, and constitutional loyalty. Why it's important is because you may have found your way in the national security apparatus through whatever means they are. If you meet some of these other indicators, it will not matter what your political ideology is. But once you find yourself in the setup, you must have a shift regarding who you now owe fidelity to. It is not the person who has brought you in. It is not the political party that you have ideological leanings to, but it is to the Constitution of the Republic and to the welfare of the security apparatus. So that mandatory reorientation is essential. And those who, after this orientation, still show signs of non-compliance with the ethos would have to have questions to answer. There's also a deployment of a new biometric database system, which, as we speak, is being implemented to cross-check personnel against national criminal and security intelligence records. Because even you as a citizen, when you're applying for something, they ask you for police reports. So why must we not hold those same standards to individuals who are working in our national security, state security apparatus? So we need that. And automatic disqualification measures are also going to be instituted for applicants that are linked to political vigilante networks, because there are visuals of them, we know them, we see them. So if you are there and we see you, this particular provision should be complied with. So these are all reforms that we are hoping will decentralize and then depoliticize the recruitment process. So when we say we have done this, it is because of these quite comprehensive, initiatives for all the state security agencies.
Okay. So to summarize, you're going to institute background checks.
Yes.
You are going to do some ideological realigning so that people understand their fidelities to the Constitution. You are going to automatically disqualify any people with vigilante, backgrounds. And now these are all things that you say you are going to do. You are in the process of. Instead of considering this particular one done, why not call it in progress?
No, it's done because the systems have been activated. So all these things that I've mentioned to are things that are being currently deployed. So it's not like a wait and see. They are being implemented.
But we haven't seen the results yet. Is it not the results that would determine that it's been done?
These kinds of actions do not lend themselves to giving regular reports on the results.
Well, have you held even one reorientation session yet?
We'll find out from the defense minister.
Have you carried out even one background check yet?
They have.
Okay.
They have.
They have? How many?
And as we have said this thing to you, as a media, you now have to call the sector ministers to respond to what we have said to you. That's really their work. They must communicate the key actions as we have communicated, because these reports were compiled from reports received from them.
So you insist that these are done, not in progress?
They are not in progress.
Okay. Now, just before that, we were about to talk about Galamsey, right? Number 19. I'll read it quickly. It says, ban illegal and new mining activities in forest reserves. Roll out our Tree for Life and Blue Water Initiative to heal and sustainably harness the environment by turning areas and water bodies degraded by illegal mining into economic and ecological recovery hubs. So here I'm counting maybe 2 or 3 action points. First one is you're going to ban illegal and new mining activities in forest reserves. As we speak, illegal and new mining activities in forest reserves, are they banned?
Yes, we would describe it as so, because the president has announced that there's not to be any continuing illegal activity in forest reserves, nor is there to be any new mining activities in forest reserves. That is the basis for the operations that are being carried out in those forest reserves that you report on a daily basis. And when there are some breaches, your reporter brings to your attention, and the Joint Security Task Force go into those forest reserves and ask if there was no ban on these operations in the forest reserve, there will be no operation to go and confiscate excavators, to go and arrest people, to go and raise down whole communities that have been raised in the middle of forest. A whole circular economy in a forest reserve, where even reports of human trafficking and prostitution and drugs is happening. Those communities have been identified, raised down, bent, people arrested. If there was no ban on illegal mining, we will not be having a case against Afunta mine. We may have different interpretations to the full effect of these, interventions, because ultimately the full effect is that we will be able to substantially reduce galamsey and illegal mining, especially in our forest reserve, because that portends an existential threat. What we also have to see when we look at this government's actions is to do a comparison to the previous administration, where we have been charged to have also supported calls for the declaration of a state of emergency, as well as the repeal of LI 2462. That is so. We are aligned with the calls then because the evidence had proven that in the 8 years of the New Patriotic Party administration, we no longer saw commitment of political leaders to act. Why? Because even a Minister of Environment had come out with a report that pointed fingers to the challenges he was having to fight galamsey, and reported about how confiscated excavators vanished into thin air. We had come and aligned with CSO because we had seen operation up to at least 3 different operations purporting to fight frontally the galamsey milling. Resources pumped into those operations, and at the end of those operations, the scorecard was such: galamsey had rather entrenched itself, and the devastation was even starker before we even started those operations.
Is that not the case today?
So we were well within our right then to also align with the calls for a state of emergency.
Are you still aligned?
But we won. Pardon?
Are you still aligned with that call?
And that's what I'm getting to now. So there was a question of low government commitment, as was evidenced by the actions and the results of non-transformation that we have seen. So we come into government, and His Excellency the President from day one says galamsey is top priority. Puts together a task force of all security agencies and stakeholders, sit around the table and figure out ways in which we can decisively deal with the matter. So, number one, immediate goodwill and commitment from government. No evidence of any complicity, no evidence of any prevention of the work of whoever has been put in charge as we speak. No Minister of Environment or Land and Natural Resources has come to report to us that his work is being frustrated at the highest level, at the seat of government. Yesterday, someone said that one of the low-hanging fruits was the repeal of LI 2462. And we are still listening to the sentiments. And what we want is a solution, because if we don't have a solution and we don't prove substantially a marked departure from how the previous administration tackled the Galamsey Minister, in 2028 we would have questions to answer. It is in our interest to listen to all well-meaning voices who have something and suggestions to say. So we had thought, by sitting around the table and looking at where the problem is, where we're informed by the Attorney General that the bigger problem is with our Minerals and Mining Act. There are provisions that allowed for the LI to also be framed the way that it was framed, where we had problems with, the provisions of the LI, especially the power of the president to grant and sign mining leases in forest reserves, which actually is one of the reasons why we saw the proliferation of companies mining in our forest reserves. What did His Excellency do? Go and amend the LI and repeal that particular provision and remove the power of the president to continue to grant licenses for companies to operate in forest reserves.
Right.
It is okay if watchers believe that that is not enough and that we should completely repeal. And I think it's back to the drawing table. Whilst we are at it, it is not the availability or the unavailability of the law that will fight the Galamsey, even though the legal regime is essential to give legitimacy to the operations that are ongoing on a daily basis. Reporters give updates on, and when they are issued, we look into them and we respond to them.
Shamima, we were told. Forgive me, Shamima. We were told recently by the lands minister that some 9 of our forest reserves were under the complete control of illegal miners. They had driven out the Forestry Commission, the armed Forestry Commission officers, and had taken control of these forest reserves. Just a few days ago, Erastus Asare-Donko reported national security officers taking over a legal underground mine and mining it themselves. Are you saying that these instances do not rise to the level that require a national state of emergency?
You have a right to expect so, but because we have information about the comprehensive interventions and operations that are being put in place. And Erastus has also reported and also made commendations to government in times that government was also responsive. In his last post, we did ask the question that who was that officer, from the top who may have directed it, because it is a matter that will have to be investigated. Because we know that not everybody within the system will be aligned to the cause. And that has been one of the major problems with fighting the Galamsey Menace, because it's a complex conundrum of collusions, collaborators, actors, from community to traditional leaders to politicians. So what we must be interested in is the insulation of the presidency and the presidency's own approach to dealing with some of these reports. So if a report comes from the field, Erastus has made a report on the field that this same government and the same national security apparatus has swooped in to deal with. Because we must have a collaborative approach to dealing with the matter. Because government may not have eyes and ears everywhere. But those who are present in places where illegality is happening, when they draw attention of government, action is taken. Because as we speak, you cannot plead complicity on the side of the presidency or the agencies mandated to fight corruption. And Galamsey, I beg your pardon. So if there's a report that national security, that's an omnibus word. We must find who these individuals are. Why are they there? Because it will be very, excuse my word, very stupid this morning for you, a national security operator, to go and stop a legal mining activity and be mining in an era that visibility on Galamsey matters is so high, and to think that you can get away with it if you indeed are doing as has been described. So that is why we think that we have a hold on the situation in terms of the leadership commitment to act when some of these reports come.
Okay.
Unless you begin to investigate and prove to me that the Minister of Lands is complicit, that the National Security Coordinator has some complicity, or the Office of the President has some complicity, we cannot now question the commitment of leadership, which is what we require to, engage in an onslaught. Because indeed it is war.
Okay, now let's talk about the other part of number 19, which is setting up the Tree of Life and Blue Water Initiative to heal and sustainably harness the environment by turning areas and water bodies degraded by illegal mining into economic and ecological recovery hubs.
A grand vision indeed.
Yeah. How many water bodies have we healed so far?
Even you would know that the process of healing an entire water body is not a 4-month matter. Especially as the scientists have been told us how many years it will take to recover soils that have been polluted with some of these trace minerals from the chemicals, the mercury and things that are being used.
Shamima, you're right. Even forgive me, Shamima. You're right. Even I would know. Did the president not know when he made that promise to be accomplished in 120 days?
So you is healing not a process? You've been doing. Is it the English? What's the name of that your English program that you've been doing?
Say it right.
So to me, and my understanding of this is that we are going to roll out 2 initiatives: Tree for Life, which has been launched, and the tree planting exercises are starting in the most devastated, communities that we are attempting the recovery at. And the Blue Water Initiative, where the water guards have also been set to patrol the water, but also to look at new technologies that other jurisdictions have been used to recover and heal their water bodies in record time and reasonable time minutes. So for me, the word heal is not an end. The word heal is a process. If you break your arm and you go to the hospital, they will put a POP around it to heal it. But that healing process is a process. So you may interpret heal but it will be preposterous to say that even as we were writing this particular promise, our intendment was to deceive the people of Ghana that this position means that by 120 days, we would have had healed water bodies and healed forests and healed, devastated lands.
But what we do have, what we do have after 120 days, Shamima, is increased turbidity in these water bodies. So, are we moving in the opposite direction?
We are not, and that's also because the activities are also growing. So, it's a 2-pronged approach to be able to heal completely the water bodies. We must stop the further pollution. To stop the further pollution, we must ensure the operations of the other. So we are doing that whilst we are putting in place. There are some areas that we've been able to take back, and there are no illegal mining activities happening in those water bodies. So for those water bodies, treatments can commence. But for those areas that are still linked to areas of active, ongoing galamsey or illegal mining activities, of course the turbidity levels in the downstream of those active places will be there. But we must stop the illegal activity and then deploy the intervention. So again, you may agree with me fully or partially, but our intendment of this clause is that we would have shown indication that these two programs would be rolled out and the impact will be felt into the medium to long term when we begin. Because even a tree, if you plant a tree today, it will not grow in 4 months. So if we say trees for life, we can't possibly mean that in four months, all the trees that we have planted in the catchment community that we launched the Tree for Life initiative in the Asante region will grow, and then we will have a vast expanse of greenery. It can't possibly have been the intendment.
Okay.
But we have seen that we have deployed that policy,
Okay.
and we will roll out as we fight the bigger battle of stopping the rot at the head, so that the downstream activities will very soon begin to yield positive results.
Okay. We're talking to Shamima Muslim. She's the deputy spokesperson for the president, and we're talking about the 120-day performance of President John Mahama. When we come back from these messages,
on the president's 120-day performance, we've already touched on Galamsey. We've spoken about some of the other things that the president has not fully delivered. And you have some more questions for Shamima. Shamima, welcome back. Are you still with us?
Hello, yes.
Yes. So
now you guys have two Kojos on the show.
Is it not nice?
Can you imagine?
Yes, we all want more, and Joy FM is giving you more. Now, Shamima, I'm here with MFR as well, and MFR has some questions for you.
Right, Shamima. So, yes. So, good morning to you. So,
good morning.
Your reference point 26 on the social contract would be that carry out a shakeup of all loss-making SOEs and realign them to break even and transition into profit making. Now, yesterday, the president said, and I quote, "My vision is clear: to transform SOEs into robust pillars of economic strength. This may involve shutting down some or merging others. SIGA is facilitating discussions to revive the produce buying company, deliberating with the Ghana Stock Exchange about potential listing of at least 10 SOEs and encouraging them to prioritize dividend payments as their primary objective this year." Two questions. Have we identified some of these SOEs that we're looking to merge? And most importantly, I see that there's a figure to some of the SOEs that you're looking to list on the stock exchange. Have we also identified some of this particular 10 SOEs?
Right. So you would recall that on March 13th, the president met at a convening of all CEOs of government entities under FIDA, met all of them. In fact, that is when some of us really got a close look at the state of our SOEs. There are some 10 SOEs that are like the biggest burden in terms of the debt. So we're talking cocoa board and the rest, quite a lot of them. They did indicate that at least 10 of these SOEs accounted for over 80% of the debt that these state entities were suffering. So that is when His Excellency told them that all of them, the CEOs and the deputies, were going to be assessed on their KPIs into the next round of assessment. And those that are falling short of their expected productivity and delivery will have questions to answer. What does this do? It places a lot of pressure on these CEOs to know that you will not be living a life of largesse under an enterprise that is really from debt and non-productivity. So this process is in full flight. The review is ongoing, and SIGA would be presenting the report that will answer the specific question that you have just asked, because I would not be privy to that information as to who, especially when the exercise is still ongoing. It is work we are also doing collaboratively with the IMF, because it is because of some of these losses, cyclical losses, persistent losses, that Ghana eventually struggles and then runs the IMF. So under the IMF program,
right,
we are supposed to do this audit, and we're working with them to do the assessment fairly and justly.
So we don't have a sense, we don't have timeline at least to know which ones we're going to be merging and which ones we're going to be listing. I acknowledge that.
Don't worry, you'll get the information with you soon. Immediately they're done with the work that they have to do.
Okay, Kojo will come in briefly, but because this contract really takes the shape of a real contract, the form and the substance, language really means a lot to me. I want to finish this conversation at the end of it knowing that this is done, this is in progress, and the language such as we're in discussion, we're facilitating, shall I count them as done or in progress?
This is your easiest question. You said should you count which one has done?
So in the president's speech, you realize that we have language such as we're in discussion, we're facilitating. I want to be able to count the points or some of the areas that he says we're facilitating, we're discussing as done or not done, and I will take that from you.
It's done and in progress. I've explained to you. So those that the action has been complete is done. Those that the processes are still live, it's in progress. Because meetings are activities. Review of documents are activities. Cabinet discussing on these issues are activities that can be counted as activities towards meeting the objects of the promise. So those ones will be progress. So, for example, we're going to appoint 14 cabinet ministers within 14 days. Within 14 days, cabinet ministers have been appointed. That is done. We're going to launch a code of conduct for public sector, public office holders, appointees. There was a process to the preparation of that code of conduct. It was just not an event. There was a process which has culminated in an actual document that has been launched. So that is done. Please,
okay.
I don't know if I've communicated clearly. So for us, of the actions that we have taken action on, that is yielding, setting results, and then setting continuing activity. We will list it as done.
Okay.
Although
Shamima, are you there?
Of those actions that are done, efficient government.
So Shamima, we are losing you. If you can position yourself well, if you can go to your previous position, I will get a better line for this question. So if you can hear me, please give me an answer to this. So the president announced that appointees who had not filed their asset register, who have not filed, are supposed to relinquish their salaries, and that be put in the Ghana Medical Trust Fund. He also said he's putting 6 months of his own money in there, and you've launched a short code to raise money for that particular fund. But the bill has not gone to Parliament yet. We don't have the law in place. What instrument, what machinery are you using to raise funds and get funding to run this Ghana Medical Trust Fund when you don't even have a board and a law in place?
So there's a task force. As you know, that it was launched by the health minister. So there's always going to have to be the groundwork prepared to finally, regularize some of these programs. So that committee is in place that is working on the modalities, on the structures. In the meantime, once they finish their work, everything else will come on stream beautifully. So there's a task force that is working on all the modalities that will answer the questions eventually.
Finally, before we let you go, is your government ready to publish annual reports of all state agencies, ministries, and to give us a sense of how we are doing when it comes to your program and activities and how we are spending the taxpayers' money?
Is it an expectation? Is it an expectation?
Shamima, your line is bad. The line is bad, but I think we can take this up at a later date. But what I wanted to ask you, if you are listening on the radio, is your government going to publish annual reports of the various ministries so that we can track performance? I'm told Shamima is back.
Right. Because I was asking if it's a suggestion you're making or it's already an existing expectation from MMDA.
It used to be done. I remember when Nimoy Thompson was NDPC boss, they used to have an almanac on the NDPC website where we had all sorts of annual reports from agencies, from ministries. We had composite budgets from the various MMDAs, which gave us a sense of how we should spend our money and how we could track government performance. But it's not being done any longer. Are you bringing that back?
I would have to find out. But I'm sure in the spirit of the transparency that we have shown so far, we've put a lot of things out, including the code of conduct, so that the public can also monitor public conduct behavior with us. I don't think it should be an issue if MMDA should. I should think that naturally they should be able to have annual reports. I should think so. So I'll find out.
Okay, we'll follow up on that because we believe that's part of the transparency and accountability contract you have with us. And thank you for joining us this morning on the Super Morning Show. So we've heard from Shamima.